from NBC 30, your source for live, local, late-breaking news. This is Connecticut News at 11.
All right, you have all kinds of appliances in your home. You use them all the time and don't think twice about it.
But there is one appliance that can cause so much damage you should never leave it running when you're not home. Grant Stinchfield live in West Hartford tonight with a special report. Grant.
Jerry and Joanne, we don't often think of a clothes dryer as a potential hazard, but for thousands of people, the dryer is the reason fire devastated their lives. You throw your clothes in it, slam the door, and turn it on. You don't give it a second thought. But you should. Because of all the appliances in your home, experts say the dryer is the one most likely to catch fire.
The dryer was going and the fire started over there.
In just minutes, the Major family lost everything.
It's a lot of memories, but they are gone.
9 days before Christmas, their house went up in flames. And unlike many December fires, the lights on this tree had nothing to do with it. Lint had built up. Not in the lint trap, but behind the dryer where few people think to check.
Because we was there for 28 years.
2 months later, Perlene Major is still emotional at the memory of that horrible morning she left the house with her dryer running. It's not just her family that's suffering. The U.S. Fire Administration estimates that dryers are the cause of nearly 16,000 fires each year in the United States, costing homeowners more than $84 million in damages.
Dryer fires are actually happening much too often.
Hartford Fire Captain Terry Waller says more often than not, the dryer's owner is to blame, not the dryer. Most people, he says, fail to do basic maintenance.
If the dryer is not drying as well as it usually dries, then you should probably get a service.
That includes hiring a professional to remove any lint out of the dryer's venting. That lint is the fuel that feeds a fire. It builds up, keeping hot air from escaping. That can cause your dryer to malfunction, shutting off key safety devices. This is what happens when all the safety devices are disabled. At 1,000 degrees, the dryer starts to smoke, eventually melting. The clothes go up in flames. It's an extreme example, but one that proves a point.
Once that lint is ignited, it is going to burn readily. It's going to really burn fast. Very fast.
Experts warn never dry anything that has vegetable or other cooking oil on it. They say that oil can heat up spontaneously even when the dryer is off. Use metal venting as opposed to plastic. The plastic venting tends to kink up and trap more lint. And probably the most important advice of all, never leave the dryer on when you're leaving home.
We should be very careful and make sure once we start our dryer that we are in the house and we're paying attention to it.
And remember Perlene Major, whose home was destroyed because her dryer went up in flames? She wants to spare you the pain her family is still feeling.
Please keep your dryer clean from behind, everything that's inside, outside.
Now, it's important to remember we are not just talking about the lint trap, but lint that builds up underneath the dryer and also behind it, so it is imperative to do routine maintenance and clean out all that stuff so it doesn't catch fire. Even having a guy come in and clean out the ducts sounds silly, but it could save you money and even your house in the long run. Jerry and Joanne, back to you.
All right, and most importantly, don't leave home with the dryer running ever, right? All right,
That's right.
Thanks, Grant. Well, have you ever left the house with the dryer running? In our Connecting with Connecticut survey, we asked that question. A lot of us have. 66% said yes. 32% said no. 1% said they weren't sure. Not much difference between men and women either. 67% of women said they left the dryer running while away. 65% of men did the same. 31% of women did not leave the dryer running. And 35% of men said that they did not leave the dryer running.
And there's going to be a whole lot of lint cleaned out of dryers in the next day or two.
Definitely.
All right, thanks.
This is Dateline Friday, April 20th, 2001. Tonight, it happens with no warning. When you've fallen asleep or left the house, a spark can turn into this. And it starts right here.
Most people leave their home without even giving a thought that the dryer is on.
A warning for us all.
Most people don't think of the dryer as a dangerous appliance.
How dangerous? How does it happen? Lee Thompson with a Dateline Consumer Alert. Dateline with Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips. plus Tom Brokaw, Katie Couric, and Maria Shriver. From our studios in New York, here is Stone Phillips. Also, a hidden danger may be lurking in your laundry room. You may not even know it.
That little bit of lint there is more than enough to fuel a fire.
How can your dryer spark a disaster? A Dateline consumer alert. Coming up next, what could spark a fire like this? A household appliance few realize can be dangerous.
Most people leave their home without even giving a thought that the dryer is on.
Could your dryer be a disaster in waiting? A Dateline consumer alert. Watching Dateline, winner of the DuPont Columbia Silver Baton for Outstanding Journalism. Here now is Stone Phillips.
It's a mental checklist many of us go through when we leave the house. What, if anything, did we leave on? The iron, the coffee maker, the oven? You want to make sure those are turned off. But many Americans will knowingly leave one particular appliance running, thinking it's perfectly safe. They couldn't be more wrong. Here's Chief Consumer Correspondent Lee Thompson with a Dateline Consumer Alert.
For more than 20 years, New Hampshire Deputy Chief Stephen Goldsmith has been fighting all sorts of fires.
Yeah, you gonna go up on top of the hill?
10-4.
But there is one fire, a house fire more than 3 years ago, that he remembers most.
The road was blocked off. There's a lot of firefighters, a lot of trucks, still a lot of smoke. Billowing from the eaves and the structure of the house.
That house was his own. In less than an hour, it was gutted by fire. At the time, he knew his wife and children were safe, but he sensed the family had lost just about everything else.
We had 3 dogs. I was hoping that the 3 dogs had gotten out, but the 3 dogs did not get out.
And the fire chief was in for another shock when investigators determined the fire's source, the clothes dryer. According to national estimates, 14,500 dryers catch fire every year, killing on average 10 people. 2 years ago, a dryer fire at an Alabama daycare center claimed several children. And as we'll show you in just a minute, dryer fires start easier and spread faster than you might think.
Most people leave their home without even giving a thought that the dryer is on. My wife knew the dryer was on.
In Goldsmith's fire, investigators assumed a short in a wire had caused the spark. The bigger question was what fueled the fire. Investigators finally came to the conclusion it was something so tiny, even they had overlooked it.
Lint, the little bit of lint that accumulates is very combustible. It's dry, it's easily ignitable, and can spread very quickly.
In fact, fire officials believe lint is a leading reason why dryer fires become so destructive. They say if lint gets into the machine's heating element, it can be the very thing that sparks and fuels a fire. How so? Dateline decided to find out. We start at this well-respected laboratory in Cortland, New York. There, with the help of laboratory engineers, we drill holes in this dryer and slip tiny cameras inside. Next, the lab's engineers blow lint into the dryer's heater. Fire officials and engineers tell us lint allowed to build up behind a dryer for years or even months can be blown into a dryer's vents and then its heater. So the engineers let the lint fly. Then we put the doors back on and turn on the machine. In 20 seconds, we see a piece of burning lint flash through the drum, but it goes out. Nothing catches fire. But just 10 seconds later, another scrap of lint burns inside the heating element. It ignites more lint. Within seconds, the back of the dryer is on fire, blowing out our cameras and the dryer's parts. Very soon, flames are spreading out the back of the machine. Smoke is filling the room. Luckily, this is a laboratory, and there's little for the fire to latch onto. So within 2 minutes, the fire burns itself out. The dryer, however, is destroyed. Imagine what could have happened if this fire had started in your home. We showed our demonstration to Fire Marshal Bliss.
That small amount of flame that had escaped from the back of the dryer would have ignited anything nearby. So you very definitely would have had a serious fire in that situation in the average home.
And chances are, says Bliss, one of the first things the burning lint will ignite is this, plastic hosing, often used when installing dryers. It's highly flammable.
Plastic will melt very quickly. Plastic will ignite very quickly. And it's just one more fuel source to add to the fire.
He says aluminum hosing is much safer. Even the industry agrees. We went back to the lab to see. We put an open flame to two kinds of aluminum hosings, corrugated and flat. After more than a minute, neither one catches fire. But the plastic hosing is in flames in just 12 seconds. For Bliss, the solution is clear. Get rid of plastic hosing and lint, the cause of so much destruction. Some people think even more should be done. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is so concerned about lint fires, its staff issued a report that said devices should be added to machines that shut down the dryer when the airflow is obstructed. Joe McGuire is with the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. He says most dryers are already designed to shut off if the machine gets too hot. Besides, he says, lint itself really can't fuel a fire. He questions whether more safety features are even needed.
What you want to make sure you don't do is mandate some sort of technology fix that doesn't really get at a primary cause for safety, yet does add cost to the consumer.
McGuire suggests consumers should take more responsibility, making sure to keep lint away from dryer vents.
Get it! Kick it! Get in!
The Goldsmiths sure do. They say they now take every precaution to keep their new home safe and lint-free. Though they admit that may be easier said than done. In fact, when we asked Steve Goldsmith to pull his dryer out, there it was, lint.
That's more than enough. That little bit of lint there is more than enough to fuel a fire.
Fire officials say you really need to make every effort to remove lint. Vacuum behind the machine whenever you're house cleaning. Don't let lint pile up on the screen like this. Clean it after each load. And pay attention to when your dryer is on. Another hard lesson the Goldsmiths learned.
My wife won't leave the house now with anything running.
Bottom line, says Fire Marshal Bliss, don't take anything for granted.
Most people don't think of the dryer as a dangerous appliance. It's not something you think about when it comes to fire. But it will spread very quickly. It'll spread smoke throughout the house, which will prevent people from getting out and get a very serious fire very quickly.
To find out if your dryer is safe, visit our website at dateline.msnbc.com.